Welcome to Thez Nutz Garage, and today we're going to be changing the transmission fluid in this here Ford Edge. Alright, like I said in the intro, what we're going to be doing today, changing the transmission fluid in this 2018 Ford Edge Sport. Now this has got the 2.7 liter EcoBoost in it. It's all-wheel drive, and this is the transmission right here. So basically what I'm going to be doing with this car, we've had this car a little over a month. And when we bought it, it's used. It had like almost 32,000 miles on it. Now I think it's got almost 35. And since I don't know the vehicle, what I'm going to do is slowly go through and change all the fluids over. Today we're going to be doing the transmission fluid. Next we'll be doing the motor oil, changing it out, changing the filter, and then I'll be going to the PTU, which is kind of like a transfer case for these all-wheel drive vehicles. And then after that we'll go to the front and rear differential, and then we'll go back to start up underneath the hood again with the brake fluid. Replace that, and then may go into the antifreeze and get all that swapped out. So basically just trying to get everything swapped over from Motorcraft or whatever somebody put in this thing. I imagine the transmission fluid and those other fluids are probably Motorcraft. I don't know what's in the engine. I don't know if the dealership, if they serviced it when it came in, if they changed the oil, don't know. Just going to go ahead and just replace all this fluid in it, so that way I know what's in it and I'm comfortable with that. Now, jump into this automatic transmission fluid here. Now this is for this particular vehicle. It is not Motorcraft, it's Amsoil. Amsoil's been around for a long time, so it's pretty much a proven oil. But this is 100% synthetic. It's OE automatic transmission fluid. It says fuel efficient for domestic and imported vehicles. Now it's got a whole bunch of stuff back here. You can read all the ingredients that's in it and the vehicles that it's for, but this is for this vehicle. So I have a gallon here, and if you'll see, I have a quart back here. I think when I looked this up on Amsoil, it kind of gives me, I think it was about 5 or 6 quarts that this would take to maybe kind of, this isn't a complete fluid change. It's kind of a, you take some out, you add to it, and next time, probably next 15,000 miles, when this thing gets to 50,000 miles, I'll change the transmission fluid again, the same way I'm doing it now. And basically over time, what you do is slowly flush that over and convert it over with the transmission. Get all that good stuff in, get all the older stuff out. Now with the PTU and the transmissions, I think it's Ford, I think they recommend or say this is 100,000 mile fluid. That's not necessarily the case, especially with these PTUs. You have to change them very frequently because the PTU is up there with the turbos and the exhaust, and it just basically cooks the fluid that's in there. So I'll be changing it as well every 15,000 miles, and I think it's only like a quart. It's not a lot, but I'll be changing that and the transmission fluid. Now I'll be moving into the oil, and when I do that, that's probably going to be a 5 or 10,000 mile service, even with Amsoil. The oil I'll be putting in it is supposed to be good for 25,000 miles, but being that this car is still under your powertrain warranty, I'm going to keep changing that fluid at what Ford recommends. I think it's every 5,000 miles. May cost me a little more, but in the long run, I'll have a lot better vehicle, and it'll still be underneath that warranty, and I don't have to worry about them trying to wiggle out of something. So let's get around here, and let me show you where the drain plug is, and the kind of got like a dipstick, I believe it is. So let's get over here and check this out. All right, so let's talk about this bucket. I've got this clear bucket because it's 12 quart little bucket. I'm gonna be draining my transmission fluid in there, so that way as it's coming out, and if I want to look at it, I can, because it's in this clear tote. But it's also a little bit longer, so that way as it's pouring out, it's got a little bit more space to hit. It's also deep, so that way it doesn't splatter everywhere. So let's get down here and get to this drain plug, and we'll be draining this fluid out. Alrighty, so real quick, underneath this vehicle, we do have a splash guard. So I'll have to take that down because right back here is the transmission. So let me remove this splash guard. You can see the lights on it right here. I think there's probably probably 4 or 5 bolts holding it on. I think they're 7 or 8 millimeter, not very big. So let me take that off and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I got this splash shield out for there. Now this is the first time I've changed the fluid in one of these edges, but this is going to be your drain plug for your transmission. You'll see there's this tag, and if you just go towards the front of the vehicle, it's basically right there. It's basically the only bolt that's facing down. So what I'm going to do is loosen that up, probably like a 10 millimeter, let it drain out, and then we'll measure how much we have. Alrighty, so I'm basically going to use this little bitty 1/4 inch drive ratchet and a little, I think this is an 11 millimeter socket. And the reason why I'm using this little one is because it ain't got a lot of torque and I don't want to break anything or strip anything out. So slide this bucket here. I also have a magnet too, that if I lose this little bolt, I can find it in the oil, in the fluid. And you can smell it too, you know, this, I can tell that it's transmission fluid by its color and its smell. You could do like the Wizard and taste it, but I'm not gonna do that. Not today, at least. Now, if you can see me over here, when we go let this drain out, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it right back in. But I also have a little bit of thread sealant that you're going to want to put a little bit on this bolt when you put it back in there. And we're not going to tighten it up real tight. This is a steel bolt and an aluminum transmission. If you strip that out, you're going to have a problem. Oh my goodness, it's got the runs. So that's what I was doing with this rag. I'm cleaning up this little bolt so that way we can get ready to stick it back in there. I wish they had a lift. So if any of y'all out there own a lift company and you want to sponsor me, I'd take one of them lifts. Ben Pack, any generic brand. I was actually looking at those wildfire lifts. I kind of like those. That way you can move them. Yeah, I'm going to say this is about a gallon like what the Fusion had in it. I think when I drained the fluid on it, it only had like a gallon in it that came out of it. That sounds horrible. Alright, let's get ready to throw our little bolt back in. Got our thread sealant on there. Now I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. A little tighteroo. Slide that out of the way. That's about it. That's about as far as I'm going to go. Yeah, and the bolt was not all the way in there. So don't just go jamming it all the way until you run it out. It wasn't like that. It had a couple of threads sticking out of it from the factory. So that's the way we're going to leave it. All right, sitting here looking at this fluid. You know, this car's got 34,000 miles on it. The fluid's still got a little red tint to it. It's kind of brown for the most part with a little purple tint to it. So I think it's needed to be changed. My opinion is on these cars, about every 30,000 miles if you're going to do a complete flush, or 15,000 if you're just going to continually just keep your fluids changed out, in my opinion. So let's get up here and we'll measure and see how much come out of this. Alrighty, exactly a gallon. So you can see here in this bucket, this is why I get a clear one too. You can kind of hold it to the side, move it around, see if there's any metal in it. It all looks good. There wasn't any metal on the end of the bolt, but I'm not for sure if it even has a magnet on the end of it. So what we're going to do now is basically we're just going to, you can see right there, basically going to put our funnel down in there, pour a gallon of our Amsoil right down there, our Amsoil transmission fluid in there, and then we'll be about to have this part of this job done. Alrighty, so I basically got my funnel shoved down in the top of the fill hole on the transmission. Now what we're going to do is open up our Amsoil transmission fluid. I mean, and you can use Motorcraft, whatever you want. Just make sure it's right for your vehicle. Because if you don't, that's on you. Whew, this stuff smells. Alright, so let's pour it in there. I think this is kind of a running gag with Amsoil. See how high up you can go with this stuff? Oh, that's pretty tall. I ain't on no ladder or nothing, but I made a mess. Yeah, that's gonna smell good. All right, so it wasn't that much. I didn't spill that much, just a dribble. Trying to keep my eye on that fill hole down there. I didn't want it to start bubbling over down there while I was eyeballing up here doing my tricks. So let's just go ahead and pour the rest of this in here. And you can see how nice and red that is compared to what came out of it. It was kind of brown. Brown's not bad, it's just when you get to black and it smells like you burnt tires. That's when your transmission's probably not working anymore. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our dipstick. Now this is the dipstick right here. This is the top of it. Now you'll see that it has an arrow right here, an arrow. When you insert this dipstick, the arrow is facing the back of the car. You're going to put it in the hole, turn it to the left or to the right, clockwise, turn it to the right, and when it locks into place, the arrow will be facing the front of the vehicle. So when you install it, arrow's facing the back, put it in, turn it, arrow's facing front when it's locked in. So let's pull this funnel out. Let's just quickly insert this dipstick. The way that fill tube is it's designed a certain way. So when you put that arrow facing back, it locks in, and then as you turn it, it tightens down and then locks in the rest of the way. So basically, other than putting the air box back in and that lower splash shield, our transmission is done. I pulled a gallon out of it, I added a gallon. Simple thing is, as simple as it can be. Every 15,000 miles, I'll do this same procedure. Really, if I wasn't videotaping this, it probably would have taken me 10 to 15 minutes to do this, especially now that I know how to do it in this particular vehicle. So that's going to be it. If you haven't liked the video, like it. Haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, because we'll have some more things that we have to do to this particular vehicle. There are some few things that's happened with this vehicle since we've owned it. I will be doing some videos on that as well. So stay tuned for that. Also, subscribe to the channel and share it. If you know somebody driving an Edge that needs to do this, just share it to them. Just send them a link. So that's going to be about it. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.